to 300 cycles of somatic reconditioning.
Hi Marvelous viewers! Today's video is going to be a super interesting one because we're exploring something that even many longtime Superman fans may not fully understand. This isn't merely a list of unusually powerful aliens. The world of DC Comics is enormous, extending far beyond superheroes, scientists, police officers, aliens, animals, demons, and cosmic entities. It also contains entire religions and mythological traditions belonging to civilizations beyond Earth. While watching Superman or the recently released Supergirl, your mind may have wondered, did Kryptonians believe in gods? Did beings capable of gaining incredible powers under a yellow sun still pray to divine entities? The answer is yes. Across different eras of DC continuity, Krypton has been shown to possess an extensive religious tradition. Some stories describe a Rao Orthodox pantheon containing 14 major gods, alongside many lesser divine figures. However, DC has repeatedly rebooted Kryptonian history, so not every god or legend belongs to exactly the same continuity. With that important warning established, let's explore 10 of the most notable gods and godlike beings associated with Krypton. Rao, god of the sun and supreme deity. Our first god is none other than Rao. Across numerous versions of Kryptonian history, Rao is presented as the foremost deity of Krypton. He's most commonly associated with the sun, light, fire, and creation. Krypton's red sun is itself called Rao, although different stories vary over whether Kryptonians named the star after the god or regarded the star as a physical manifestation of him. In pre-Crisis mythology, Rao was not always presented as a humanoid being who could physically appear and fight. He was often treated as an ancient divine force, identified with Krypton's red sun and the creation of the celestial bodies surrounding the planet. Post-Crisis stories expanded Rao into a more elaborate divine figure. According to these legends, Rao created other Kryptonian gods from his essence and was regarded as their father. Flamebird, Nightwing, and Vohc were among the beings associated with this extended mythology. Rao's influence also shaped Kryptonian society. Different continuities show priests, religious authorities, and an organized religious guild devoted to Kryptonian belief. Rao eventually became so dominant that the worship of several older gods declined. Superman occasionally invokes his name through expressions such as Great Rao or By Rao. However, such expressions don't always prove that Superman personally practices Kryptonian religion. They may also function as cultural exclamations inherited from his Kryptonian heritage. Rao remains the central divine figure in nearly every major version of Kryptonian mythology. Cythonna, goddess of ice and darkness. The second deity is Cythonna, one of the most dangerous beings ever connected with Kryptonian mythology. Cythonna made her first major appearance in the 1999 one-shot Superman the Last God of Krypton. She was described as an ancient goddess of ice, darkness, and death who existed as the opposite of Rao's light and warmth. According to the story, Cythonna wanted Rao to join her so that their offspring could corrupt the universe he had created. Rao rejected her, leading to a catastrophic conflict between the forces of fire and ice. Rao and the other gods could not completely destroy Cythonna. Instead, they imprisoned her outside ordinary existence. When Krypton was destroyed, the cosmic disturbance eventually enabled her to escape. Cythonna traveled to Earth after sensing that Superman carried the final surviving legacy of Krypton and Rao. She proved overwhelmingly powerful and initially dominated Superman in battle. Superman eventually drew her towards Earth's yellow sun. Its energy strengthened him while weakening Cythonna, whose nature was tied to cold and darkness. After a fierce confrontation, she was left imprisoned within the sun. She shouldn't be confused with an ordinary Kryptonian or a member of Krypton's political guilds. She was a genuine supernatural antagonist whose story deliberately placed Superman in the middle of an ancient war between Kryptonian gods. Flamebird, goddess of destruction and renewal. Our third Kryptonian deity is Flamebird. The name Flamebird can cause confusion because DC has used it for human and Kryptonian costumed identities, as well as for the supernatural entity of Kryptonian legend. In the mythology developed during the New Krypton era, Flamebird was a divine being associated with fire, destruction, and renewal. Rao tasked Vohc with creating and beautifying Krypton, while Flamebird destroyed his creations. This was not originally meaningless cruelty. The repeated cycle forced Vohc to build something greater each time, creating a divine rhythm of construction, destruction, and rebirth. Flamebird eventually fell in love with Nightwing, the shadowy hunter who served as Rao's eyes in the darkness. Vohc had feelings for Flamebird and became consumed by jealousy when she chose Nightwing. After Flamebird destroyed one of Vohc's most treasured creations, Vohc retaliated by imprisoning Nightwing within a structure made from Kryptonian sunstone. Thousands of years later, Flamebird manifested through the Kryptonian woman Thara Akvar. Thara had been the chief of security in Kandor before becoming the living host of the goddess. Flamebird is therefore more than a superhero codename. In this continuity, she represents an ancient force of destruction whose fire makes renewal possible. Nightwing, Rao's eyes in the darkness. Our next god is the legendary Nightwing. This is not Dick Grayson from the Batman and Teen Titans stories. In Kryptonian mythology, Nightwing was a shadowy, divine being associated with darkness and hunting. He was described as Rao's watchful presence in places that divine light could not reach. Because Nightwing existed within darkness, he remained unseen and profoundly lonely. Vohc eventually enabled Flamebird to perceive him, and Flamebird and Nightwing became eternal companions and lovers. Their bond enraged Vohc, who desired Flamebird for himself. And as I mentioned earlier, after Flamebird destroyed Vohc's treasured monument, Vohc imprisoned Nightwing within Kryptonian Sunstone. During the New Krypton storyline, Nightwing returned through Chris Kent. Chris was actually Lor Zod, the biological son of General Zod and Ursa. Superman and Lois Lane had previously taken him into their family after he escaped from the Phantom Zone. Chris didn't simply adopt Nightwing as a random superhero name. He became the host through whom the mythological Nightwing manifested in the physical world. At the same time, Thara Akvar became Flamebird. Their transformation linked the modern characters to one of Krypton's oldest legends and allowed the romance between Nightwing and Flamebird to unfold again through mortal hosts. Vohc, the builder who became the breaker. Our next god is Vohc. According to Kryptonian mythology, Rao assigned Vohc the task of filling Krypton with magnificent creations. Vohc designed living creatures, natural wonders, and increasingly beautiful works. Flamebird had the opposing duty of destroying what Vohc built. Every destruction forced Vohc to surpass his previous work, continuing the world's cycle of creation and renewal. The system collapsed when Vohc became emotionally attached to Flamebird and began treating his creations as expressions of his love for her. Flamebird admired his work, but remained bound to her divine purpose and destroyed it. And again, Flamebird also chose Nightwing rather than Vohc, who, humiliated and furious, imprisoned Nightwing within a sunstone structure filled with emptiness. Through this betrayal, Vohc transformed from the builder into the breaker. Kryptonian religious tradition came to remember him as an original sinner or fallen god who rejected Rao's order. In the modern storyline, Vohc manifested through Jaxer, a notorious Kryptonian scientist and criminal. This allowed him to resume his conflict with the earthly hosts of Nightwing and Flamebird. Vohc is therefore not merely a god of construction. His legend is a Kryptonian story about creativity corrupted by possession, jealousy, and pride. Yuda, goddess of the moons, love, and marriage. Our next goddess is Yuda, the mistress of Krypton's moons. Yuda was associated with Krypton's two moons, love, marriage, and romantic union. Kryptonian tradition claimed that when the planet's two moons appeared to become one in the sky, their union symbolized marriage. Yuda was also incorporated into sci-fi's Krypton television series. The voice of Rao wore a golden mask containing 6 faces. Those faces represented Rao, Cythonna, Yuta, Tel, Mordo, and Laura. This didn't establish one universal pantheon for every Superman continuity. The television series used its own adaptation of Kryptonian religion. However, it demonstrated that Yuta remained important enough to be included among that version of Krypton's 6 recognized gods. Yuta may not possess the extensive battle history of Rao or Cythonna, but her domain reveals that Kryptonian religion concerned ordinary life as well as cosmic creation. Tel, God of Wisdom. Our next god is Tel, the Kryptonian God of Wisdom. Tel made an early appearance in Action Comics number 299, published in 1963. During Supergirl's visit to Kandor, statues of ancient Kryptonian gods could be seen in the city's Boulevard of Legendary Heroes. Tel was represented as Krypton's equivalent of the Thinker, the famous sculpture associated with Auguste Rodin. This visual comparison connected him with reflection, knowledge, and intellectual discipline. The statue established Tel as one of the earliest explicitly named gods in Superman's Kryptonian mythology. However, the issue did not provide him with an elaborate personal story or establish him as the official patron of Krypton's later Science Guild. His importance is primarily symbolic. Krypton is repeatedly depicted as a civilization that revered knowledge, scientific development, and rational thought. A god of wisdom naturally fits such a culture. There's also a tragic irony in this association. Krypton produced extraordinary scientists, yet its ruling authorities repeatedly ignored Jor-El's warning that the planet was doomed. The pre-Crisis version of Tel and his history were removed when Crisis on Infinite Earths reconstructed DC continuity. Nevertheless, later adaptations revived his name. In Sci-Fi's Krypton TV show, Tel was one of the 6 gods represented on the Voice of Rao's mask. Mordo, God of Strength. Our next god is Mordo, the Kryptonian god of strength. Like Tel and Laura, Mordo appeared in statue form in Action Comics number 299 on Kandor's Boulevard of Legendary Heroes. As with Tel, the original version of Mordo belonged to pre-Crisis continuity and was erased or radically altered after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Mordo's name later returned in Sci-Fi's Krypton TV show. One of the 6 faces of the Voice of Rao's ceremonial mask represented him, alongside Rao, Cythonna, Yuta, Tel, and Laura. Although Mordo has received little individual character development, he remains one of the earliest named members of Krypton's ancient pantheon. Aethyr, the Oversoul of the Phantom Zone. Our next entity is Aethyr, the Oversoul associated with the Phantom Zone. Aethyr is complicated because DC has presented substantially different versions of the character. In the original pre-Crisis mythology, Aethyr was a vast, godlike consciousness native to the deepest level of the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone was eventually revealed to be connected with Aethyr's own consciousness rather than merely being an empty prison dimension. Aethyr contained an enormous collective of souls and sought to absorb those who entered its domain. Superman encountered this presence during the 1982 Phantom Zone miniseries and again in DC Comics Presents number 97. This history was erased or displaced after Crisis on Infinite Earths. A new version appeared in the 2024 Action Comics storyline beginning with issue number 1070. This Aethyr called himself Aethyr the Merciful. When he discovered the Phantom Zone, he was horrified to find Kryptonian prisoners existing as bodiless, suffering phantoms. Aethyr believed he was rescuing them, although his actions threatened both the Phantom Zone and the physical universe. Superman was consequently forced to investigate the zone's history and prevent a catastrophic escape. Smallville also used the name Aethyr for a completely different character. In that television continuity, Aethyr was a female Kryptonian warrior and follower of General Zod. She shouldn't be treated as the same being as the comic book Oversoul. Aethyr is not always counted as a conventional member of Krypton's native pantheon, but his connection with Kryptonian prisoners and the Phantom Zone makes him one of the most important godlike beings in Superman mythology. Trolius, Lord of the Sky. The last god on our list is Trolius, an obscure Kryptonian deity associated with the sky or air. Trolius appeared in pre-Crisis Superman mythology and is generally identified as the Lord of Krypton's sky. Compared with Rao, Cythonna, Flamebird, or Nightwing, very little canonical information was ever provided about him. His obscurity is precisely what makes him interesting. Kryptonian religion did not consist only of a sun god and a few supernatural enemies. It included deities associated with wisdom, beauty, strength, love, moons, fire, darkness, the earth, and the skies, after his cells absorb radiation from a younger yellow sun. There is also no established story in which Trolius angrily turns Krypton's sky red or deliberately removes Superman's powers. He is best understood as an atmospheric or celestial deity from Krypton's ancient pantheon rather than as a cosmic villain responsible for Superman's weaknesses. Despite his limited appearances, his existence helps demonstrate how broad Kryptonian mythology became across decades of Superman comics. Outro. Well, that's it for today, guys. Kryptonian mythology is far more complicated than it initially appears. Rao stands at its center, but different eras introduced gods of ice, fire, darkness, creation, love, wisdom, strength, and the sky. Because DC has repeatedly rewritten